Shall I start with the first item?
The recording is a little bit slow to start.
Yeah, but it's already happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super weird. It, like for the person who starts the recording, it shows it's last. It's super
Mm.
weird. I don't know.
Okay, now it's recording for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the first item is mine. I just wanted to give a heads up on a PR, which is not, I mean, there is no code change, but just asking for removing the experimental wording regarding remote write and remote read. I think it makes sense to kind of acknowledge that now this is kind of well established on the Prometheus side. Just like for any configuration format, nothing is written in stone almost in the Prometheus config. The format might change, but we can definitely, I would think, agree that on our side we'll keep backward compatibility. So yeah,
sounds good.
That was all. I can get a few +1.
Was there a discussion, I think, some time back about a remote write version 2? Was there anything happening on the Prometheus side since? Okay.
Not that I remember on top of
okay.
my head.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I mean, like, as you said, it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah, and the fact that we have now AWS managed Prometheus, the same on GCP, kind of solidify everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good to me. Also, I just put a comment in
the okay. That was all.
PR.
Yeah.
And I think next one is Arthur. Do you want to go with it?
Okay. Yeah. So I have 3 topics, all related to the security stuff that we've been doing. So, but the first one is volume mounts for Grafana TMP. I think we just merged the PR link there, but I remember Pavel suggesting to use a different volume mount. So is this still a concern, or are we good with the MTDR?
Yeah, personally, I'm fine with MTDR as it is right now.
All right. The first one was fast. Second one is a little bit more complicated. So Prometheus has this query log file feature, and Prometheus Operator also supports this feature, but the query file is not mounted anywhere. It's just left on the root file system. Since we want to enable a read-only root file system, we need to mount this query log file somewhere. The problem is that users can add this query log file to dev stdout, and that's not a good idea to have a mount on this path. And it's also possible to users to create a persistent volume claim and add the volume themselves. And if we add an MTDR in the same place as an user creates a persistent volume claim, it's gonna be, not sure if it's gonna break anything, but I don't think it's correct. So I'm out of ideas how to proceed on this one.
I can propose one controversial thing. Put it into MTDR. It's a log file. It's the same as log from Prometheus. I don't think we care about it so much, but we need to ensure that it is persistent the same way as Prometheus data.
Yeah.
The thing is that you can, I mean, if you configure persistent storage for the Prometheus database, then you may want to store the query log file on the same volume, but it's persisted. And then kind of the reasoning is more that deciding when we should create the MTDR, mount an MTDR or not, might not be so easy like Arthur said, you might want to write to std out. You might want to write the query log file to the already existing persistent volume for storing Prometheus data. The other option is just to tell the user that they need to, if they don't redirect to std out to /dev something, or they don't like store it on the persistent volume, then they need to pass an mtdir.
Yeah,
volume.
So as for that, I would not want to even have an option of having query log on the same volume as datadir. This is something I did in the past, and it was more biting me in the ass than actually having more benefits, because you are now adding one more thing that can populate your volume, and you don't have that much control or prediction over the volume capacity when you have a query log. Because
sure, yeah.
So ideally, I would say it should live somewhere else and not with data. And I don't think we should even advertise that this is something that is possible. But yeah, if we want to store it, maybe some other volume or mtdir or std out, maybe we can have like another parameter in CRD for that.
Should we even give users the possibility to specify the path for the query log file? There's also the option to just have a hard-coded path mounted into an mtdir volume, and that's it basically. And then you tell users this is where you find the log file.
That would be a breaking change, right?
Yeah, that's true. It would be a breaking change though.
Yeah, I think like I'm kind of leaning towards, if nothing was specified, let's just put it into an mtdir as proposed. But then if somebody changed the query log path, then it's really up to them to do what they need to do. Like put it on a PVC, your own problem if something breaks. Put it on an mtdir because you want to have it on another mtdir path. I don't know why you would want that, but it's possible, right? Like, I think we should be able to figure out where the query log file is written to from the operator side.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if that's the case, then we know if it's set to something custom. If it's set to something custom, then we kind of like are hands off, and otherwise we just create the mtdir.
So let me just make sure I get it correctly. But if user tells that he or she wants an query log file, we hard code a path. If a path is given, we compare against all the other volumes to check if the path is used somewhere.
I would do it a bit simpler. If user wants a query log file, then we put mtdir and we don't check any paths and put it into that. And if they specify particular path, then don't do mtdir and don't do the read-only file system.
Okay, so read-only file system is also optional.
I wouldn't make it dependent on that. I would still have the read-only file system, but then if you change the path to the query log, you need to like mount an mtdir in that place or put like a PVC into that place.
Yeah.
So then otherwise it's like a weird side effect of all of a sudden you don't have the read-only file system security anymore.
Yeah,
that's true. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Are you more clear on how to move forward now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
It should just be, of course, clearly advertised in the changelog because.
Yeah.
But yeah, as part of having the read-only root file system.
Okay. Next topic is the last vulnerability that we need to get rid of is ingress and egress blocked on Kube-prometheus, and we have a work in progress PR for network policies but it's stale for quite some time. So just double checking if help is needed. I'll be happy to help.
I'm kind of short on time with that PR, so if you want to take over, feel free.
The situation is that only the Prometheus adapter is not working correctly. Is that true?
Yes, that's true, and I think we have only part of network policies. We don't have either egress or ingress is not specified anywhere.
Okay.
I think everything is in comments in that PR.
All right, I'll check that later, and I'll try to advance. I guess next one's from Simon.
Yeah, again, just mostly not something that we need to discuss here, but yeah, I've started a design doc on the status sub-resource, which, yeah, please have a look, have some comments. I may start to like build a prototype and push some code later this week, but yeah, just to keep might be easier also to see how it will work in practice. I will definitely focus first on the Prometheus Alert Manager and Thanos Roller, because the status sub-resource for these is much simpler. With service monitors and pod monitors, we have this difficulty that they might map to several resources. So it's going to be more complicated and less Kubernetes idiomatic way of representing it. So yeah. And yeah, maybe just Matthias, if you want to go first, because I don't think the other things I have on the agenda are super urgent. So maybe since we have Pavel.
Mine isn't even either super urgent. Because Pavel needs to leave. Yeah, I guess basically the title says it all. And I once talked to Pavel, was it like half a year ago, about adding Pura for SLO management to Kube-prometheus by default. And I think, yeah, like a week or two ago, like on the site, I started adding Pura with some JSONnet to Kube-prometheus, and I just wanted to quickly share this as well. So I've just been kind of like going through what I think would make sense, and what we could come up with for like SLOs, and then also obviously like deciding if that's something like in general, if we want to like advertise this as part of Kube-prometheus. But yeah, like I mean, like the API server is something that was already in there from Kube, the Kubernetes mixin, that's what it's called, the Kubernetes mixin, but kind of now split up. And I think that was one of the learnings that I personally had from all the way back, kind of mushing everything together, like the read latency, write latency, and then the errors plus latency. It was just too confusing for people to kind of know when something is firing, why it's firing. Is it like because it's slow, or are there errors, or like what's happening? So basically that's why I like split these up, and then yeah, just went through all the other things that we already have alerts for, and then I think like I added something like the Prometheus service discovery, for example. I don't know, any questions about Pura or anything before I like dive, or I don't know, I don't even think I need to dive into the SLOs themselves. You can take a look, but yeah, just generally speaking, on what are your thoughts on doing something like that?
I am on board.
Yeah, personally, I like it as well.
What about the others?
Yeah, definitely on board.
Okay, nice.
So I guess, yeah, like generally I would continue down that path. I think like a lot of things are already in there. The question would be kind of like removing or like basically hiding the Kubernetes mixin SLO, because that would like obviously collide. And then we would have these alerts twice, kind of like cleaning up things here and there. And I will just create a PR and people can check it out. Do you think it's worth doing as an add-on for now, or should we just like add it right away? Okay, Pavel is nodding for add-on.
I would say let's do it as an add-on, and on top of that, I think we would need to change manifestation in a few places because Pura has CRD,
Right.
which needs to go in the setup directory. So we would need to change a few things there, but those should be fairly simple. And I would like to test it as an add-on because basically enabling an add-on is easier than disabling that part of code. And if we do that, there are dependencies and dependent projects which would get Pura, and then they would need to disable that, which is a bit harder to do. Especially, and with our kind of modular design right now, it should be fairly easy to do it as an add-on. Or I would even go with like put it as a component, but not enable it by default or something like this.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I can probably, as you said, comment it out like next to the other components in the main example, and then you can just edit by having one comment removed.
Yeah, that's.
And I guess as more people start to using Pura, maybe in like 1, 2, or 3 releases, we could make it as a built-in component. Like
sure. Yeah, I mean that's always an option then. Like why I want to do this is like also like more people getting exposed to it, and then like thus making like the project itself lots like a lot better again, and getting lots of improvement and feedback and so on. So kind of like can level up on both sides, and eventually we can discuss this again. Like there's no hard timeline from my side. It's just a free time project.
Well, one question for the OpenShift folks: if in I don't know some releases we enable Pura by default, that means that everyone that uses OpenShift will use Pura.
Unless anything changed, OpenShift doesn't use main from Kube-prometheus, so they don't care.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that would be a wider discussion inside of that, whether we want to. There are definitely people interested, like having a more SLO driven approach, but it's definitely a complex topic, and not sure that it will end up by default in the product as of today. But
no, like that wasn't the intention anyways. So it makes sense. All right, cool. I'll clean up the things I have locally and then send the PR. And I'm happy to get feedback on that. Wasn't expecting so much positive feedback, so I'm happy. Cool. Yeah, and let me know obviously if there's anything that you ever encounter with Pura while having it enabled on like experimental clusters or stuff. If there's anything. Nice. Do you want to continue with the other stuff, Simon?
Yeah, I just moved things around, so the next one is for Philip. That was the standalone admission webhook.
Yeah. So not too much to add here. This has been sitting around for a while, and Simon has reviewed it. So I think it's in good shape, and Pavel, I did any of the JSON suggestions that you mentioned. So it would be just great to get another couple of eyes on this and see if we can get it merged. I know we have some other people on the team in Red Hat are planning to build on this, so it'd be nice to get it over the line. That's it.
I'll take a look at JSON things today after the meeting and put a comment in the PR.
No worries, thanks.
All right, good. So my last two items are from issues reported on the Prometheus Operator. The first one, so I think Philip also you commented on that one. We've got someone who is using like the FSX AWS file system to, like they have a single, from what I, correct me if I'm wrong, Philip, they've got a single volume that they can mount on several Prometheus instances. Then they want to kind of use a different subpath per Prometheus object. Basically, they write everything on the same volume, but at a different subpath, which right now is possible using the strategic patch merge, because you can override what the operator generates. The question is more, do we want like to make that a first-class citizen and to allow people to do that, or do we consider that it's a niche use case? And then since you can still do it with the using the containers list, then we're good with that. I've personally no strong opinion. Just until my first reaction would be until we've got more people asking for it, let's keep it like that. But
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I don't have also like any strong opinion on that. Leaning maybe towards not including this for the simplicity, but it's the first report of this in years.
yeah, exactly. I think yeah, go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, it's the first report because I think this FSX file system is new, and there aren't many cases where you mount a single volume to multiple pods or multiple nodes. So I think this is why it's popping up now, and it's probably some either hybrid cloud or some migration use case. Maybe just trying to save on resources. But as a counterpoint, also the implementation change is actually quite simple. So it doesn't seem to be too complicated. There's already also a pull request, so it's this is why it's also a decision that's kind of borderline at the moment.
Yeah, adding on to that, fully agree with everything that's being said, and I would even go so far that basically pushing this up to Prometheus would make sense first, and then discussing what the kind of opinion on Prometheus project site is. I just quickly copied the kind of documentation on NFS that was always like cited, right? Simon starts laughing. So like, I think that's a similar thing, and I would kind of like want to know what Prometheus itself says about like that file system next to NFS and stuff. And then we can decide. But I think, as you said, first time this pops up, just have it a separate thing for now. Seems good to me as well.
Yeah, it's also worth looking into what FSX actually is, because if it's just like a facade on top of NFS, then I agree it's a bad idea to use it. But
yeah, go.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, if AWS have managed to do something, managed to make a breakthrough and improve upon NFS, then maybe it's a viable option as well.
Just to say, it's not really an NFS, and underneath there is like multiple different file systems working. It looks more like Fuse, that is mounted on top of something else, but research would need to be done to say what this is actually, and if it is POSIX compliant.
Yeah, makes sense. I would suggest Simon and I kind of take this to Prometheus Dev Summit and then put it on the agenda and bring it up there and see what folks think on Prometheus project side, and then we can have this trickle down into Prometheus Operator again.
Yeah, I think in the meantime, it wouldn't hurt maybe to like, I think we have a storage documentation page. So maybe just highlight like this particular use case and say document it and say if you want to override the subpaths of the PV where it gets mounted, then you can do it like that, because that was like mostly the initial ask from the reporter was to say, now I need a new field because I want to modify that particular field in the generated stateful set, which once you are kind of a power user or Prometheus Operator developer, then you know that you can probably hack something using the merge patch. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'll comment on that issue. Yeah. That's what we kind of discussed. The last one is also interesting. That someone who wants to use probes on ingress resources. And like the initial, from what I get, can't remember exactly, but the initial assumption was that we would scan the ingress resource, then look at all the host name, append the ingress path, and then we would, like the probe would query that full URL. What the user reported is that that doesn't work for them because they want to replace the full path with, instead of being the ingress path, being /else, which they can't do because they don't have access to the address, to the address of the ingress anymore, because we overwrite the address, the __ address label at the very beginning of the relabeling config. Yeah.
Can we just add relabel it onto a different label and document it?
Yeah, that's. I think we can do it. See two options, like what you said. We create __ TMP _ address. So anybody that wants to rewrite the end target param can just use that. The other option would be to move, like to override the __ address at the very, like to have that as the very last relabeling config in the generated configuration. But that might be more complicated. Like it might trigger more side effects, and probably like just having the temporary label where you can still find the initial address value, and if you don't want like to, if you need something custom, then you just have it available. Probably way simpler.
Yeah, I just checked where we are using _address, and at least in the rendered configuration is the last one. But I assume that everything that is added, like few via relabeling config in the CR, is appended on top to that.
Yes, this is appended to the generated configuration. What's kind of the main issue for the reporter is that they looked at the generated relabeling configuration and they said, okay, now I want to reuse the initial address, but now it's gone because it's been overwritten with the address of the prober. So
yeah, personally, I would say it's _TMP _address is much simpler. And if they even looked at the configuration already in Prometheus, we should figure it out either way. But
yeah,
but documenting this additionally, it would be also great.
And also, like, it would not be the first one. We have also the TMP job name for people that want to do it. So it's kind of okay. We can adopt the same pattern there. If anything pops up in the future, like some other label that people want to reuse, then we can still use that. All right. Cool.
That sounds great. Does anyone else has any other topic that is not on the agenda?
Our biggest agenda and one of the fastest.
We're getting better at it.
I have one question. Sorry for putting you on the spotlight. But João, I think it's your first time here. So
Yes, I
thanks for joining. And do you need help with anything, or just
I joined this month Red Hat in the monitoring team. So someone posted the link for the meeting on the chat, and I decided to pop in as trying to get as much exposition as possible to the different projects. So that's the time it takes to start contributing. It's not long.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I guess nothing more to discuss.
No.
All right. See you all in 2 weeks.
Bye
Bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See you.